Alrighty, we are live. Today is obviously the Tea podcast because every Friday I do this. Today we got a fun episode. We're going to be talking with a local entrepreneur about a couple of different things. We will touch on his main business, which is State Farm. He's an owner agent for State Farm, but he owns Parlor Salon Studios, and he's getting into the NFT Metaverse area. So today we'll be talking about that. But first, you're listening to the Tea. All right. So today we have Bradley Beck. Bradley, welcome to this little podcast of mine. So, tell us a little bit about yourself. Good to have you.
Originally I'm from the Ascension Parish, Assumption area, kind of like the Donaldsonville, Assumption Parish area, and went to school down there. Pretty involved in sports growing up. Like to be outside and enjoy that, and kind of like was my high school years growing up in that. And then when I was around 15, started working for Chef John False and at one of his restaurants, and just worked my way through.
A chef, huh?
Yeah. So I was in the front of the restaurant working in the bussing tables, and then also waiting tables when I was of age enough to start doing that, and kind of paid my way through college and went on to Nicholls State and graduated in business. So that was my educational early childhood development areas, and then went on to Nicholls State, finished there, and just had a great time on campus, very involved in all the activities. Then shortly after graduation, my dad, my brother, and I started a software firm right when I was 21 years old, man. So dove right in early years of 1995, when software, you actually had to have a disk to install the software that we were selling. And it was in the human resources space, where we worked with human resource departments to install a certain type of software to help people in hiring and developing people. So early on, I was always involved in a sales role. It's kind of when you start in a company, you have to eat, so, what you sell is what you eat. So, I had a pretty big appetite even at an early age, wanting to get the sales, really rolling, and did that for 16 years, from the time I was 21 to almost 37. But along the way, our firm was one of the top resellers of this particular software on a national basis. So we did very well as a company. 8 years into that journey, I created a software platform that I created a software product before portals even existed, when people would log into websites. When I saw that technology, I saw how our software that we were selling to companies, I worked with the developers to help reverse engineer those assessments to where we were able to help kids in their career path. And I went to the state of Louisiana and pitched my idea, and they licensed it from me for almost, at the time, $500,000 a year, which was an educational product. We were implemented into all the schools throughout the state, had nearly 400,000 kids using it. So it was a really, that kind of began my journey into the software space, and, just wanting to serve people and help others. That's a big component of mine.
Wow, man, there is a lot there. All right, so kind of want to go back to the 1995 mention, and you were 21?
21, yeah.
And you were getting into software.
Yeah.
1995. That was like you're on the cusp of like just the beginning of the internet.
That's right. It was like Web 1.0, and at the time, that's where I started to learn website development. So at the time, we had a company. We knew we needed to be online, and we didn't even know what to do. So it was really just kind of researching, getting started. And luckily, I had a good friend of mine that had just graduated from the Naval Academy or Navy, and he came back, and he was a computer sciences type person, and he knew how to develop some basic websites, and he taught me enough to get started, like overnight. We kind of got together and, kind of had a little course on. At the time, it was Microsoft Front Page was the software.
My gosh. Yeah, I remember that.
So I learned Microsoft Front Page and just started, how to, being necessary to have an online website, taught myself how to build websites and create our own company website. And then that led to when the software that we were selling went online, where it became an online software where, portal logins and things like that. That's when I saw the opportunity for what we were doing in that space to bring it over into the educational sector and get it in. And actually, ironically, at the time, I was working with the Board of Regents, and Dr. Joe Savoy was, I'm so thankful that he had the vision to see what I was creating, and he's the one that signed off on my program. So very thankful to work with the Board of Regents and Dr. Joe Savoy, and here he is now in Lafayette. So it all comes full circle.
Man, I feel like you've done so much already, and what we're going to be talking about today is so much more.
Right.
I guess I want to talk about, okay, you're 21, you're entering the software space, which is at that time, that was a big innovative leap to do. Like, not very many people were getting into, at least in Louisiana, a software company. Like, that wasn't cool. Like, that was risky. Like, that's so new. Like, what are you doing? Like, okay. So fast forward a little bit. Why and how did you go from what seemingly sounds like a Silicon Valley situation with software and getting into logging into, websites? That was revolutionary, I guess, at that time, to being a State Farm agent.
Yeah.
I mean, you started your agency in 2012, which is pretty recent. Mm-hmm. So how did that come about?
Sure. So, when I look back at each, crossroads or each, segment to a new business that I've been involved with, I think it had a lot to do with mentoring that was involved. So at the time when we were creating a software, we had a software that we were selling, and I was fortunate enough to be mentored by the CEO of a company in Texas. And he had the deep pockets and was able to help co-fund and collaboratively create the software. So I had the idea and the vision and, kind of outlining every detail of how the software would work. They hedged and built from the back end the software, and they ran the development team, to help that development cycle and also the funding of it. So, from a risk standpoint, we all took risk and time and energy and effort, but we de-risked it by pre-selling it. So when you go, try to pre-sell something that doesn't exist yet, when we get a contract up front, okay, now we've just brought down the risk factor, and now we could sell it. So we did that successfully for about 8 years. During that time cycle, what led me over to transition out of that is two things really. One was, at the time, the state of Louisiana started to have tremendous budget shortfalls, and with having that one client, which was the state of Louisiana, as my client, when they ran into shortfalls, that means how are we going to get paid? Even though we did it at a great value for the state, at the end of the day, we still had to earn a living. Simultaneously, while those were having those shortfalls, my mentor in Texas, Jim Sabasky, great guy, he passed away. So it's kind of like those two roads were kind of coming together, where the person in my life and the company that was helping me, and then the state of Louisiana, it just was a time there. You know what? I'm going to have to figure out some transition in my life. And looking at where I was in the company with my family, and where they were at in their lives, I thought, I want to look for something where I would have thousands of clients, something that's just very secure, a good foundation, a great brand to be a part of, and State Farm was a natural segue for me.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about great brands. I mean, State Farm is one of the biggest brands, especially mainly in the country. I don't know about nationally or internationally, but
so mainly U.S. But one of the things is coming in externally, and that's what they call it with State Farm. I came in completely never been in insurance.
You were green,
very green. So, but I think what they saw was the entrepreneurial side that I had, and my business acumen to execute a business plan, and really work on scaling an operation was important. And ever since I've been in Lafayette, started almost 10 years ago, June 1st, man, 10 years. Wow. And been so fortunate. The community of Lafayette has just been so supportive, and very thankful for that.
So we got one comment for now. Carson, looks like
Baronic, huh?
Carson Barank,
Oh,
and he said, "Go B."
yeah. So Carson was a All-American pitcher at UL, and he worked for me for almost 6 years, and he just was selected to be a State Farm agent.
Oh, nice.
And started this year. He and another young man, Caleb Freyu, shout out to both of those guys who just started their State Farm journey as an agent, and they spent 6 and 7 years in my office and learning and developing, mentoring. So just as I felt I've been mentored, giving back and showing others and introducing others to entrepreneurship, I just think it's so important, and helps our economy grow, and the more people that can bring on other job opportunities. So those guys that started, yeah.
And then we get another comment from Brian Beasley. He just does the bicep arm. Goes. It looks like strong.
Yeah.
Okay. So we know that State Farm for you is a good foundation,
Absolutely.
a strong company, and it supports I'm guessing your living for the most part.
Absolutely.
It's your main source. And then you have a couple other companies, and it's interesting because even though you guys were in the software space early on, and you're digging your heels into very innovative things, some of the businesses that I'm looking at that you are a part of and that you own are pretty in that wheelhouse of innovation and kind of doing things that are a little out of the box.
Right.
According to what people knew, at least over the past 5 years. One of those businesses is Parlor Salon Studios, and it is essentially I'm a preface it, and I'll let you kind of expound on it. Is it's rentable units for cosmetology professionals to get started in their entrepreneurial journey to either do hair, makeup, nails, or anything that's in that cosmetology space.
Right. Yeah,
Do I kind of have it
That's
right?
right. You sure do. So, about I'd say almost 6 years ago, I was talking to another insurance agent out of New Orleans, a good friend of mine, and he had just gotten back from a conference, and he was speaking to others about, besides insurance, what else do they invest in, or what other businesses that they had. And one of the guys had said that they own salons, and my friend asked a little more probing questions, like, so why salons? And he went over how, from an investment standpoint of owning the real estate and rentals and things like that, it was a great business concept. So learning that, one of the things that started popping up on my Facebook feed was Grant Cardone.
Oh, yeah.
And just looking and studying what he's doing in the real estate space. And he speaks a lot about owning and renting multiple doors or multiple units. Okay, so if you have a one home that you're renting out and that home goes vacant, you're now down to 0% occupancy.
Right.
Whereas if you have, 10, 15, 20 units and a couple of them leave, you still have 70 to 80% occupancy. So I was looking for a business model like that. This Salon Studios opportunity just made sense to me. I started to really understand the numbers, research it. There's franchises out there that, allow, individuals to buy a franchise just based on my background with, business and, being able to build things and, build websites and things like that.
Yeah, you wanted to build it yourself.
I want to build myself, that way, I kind of control the brand, and we can, bring that out. But part of it was, looking at, providing a business model that promotes entrepreneurship, puts people in a position where they can control a little bit more of what they're doing. And you think about that space, a lot of salons, and we got, other great salons in Lafayette, but there's that crossroads where there's maybe a stylist that wants to do their own thing, or they want to be independent. But starting an entire salon by themselves might be very challenging. So this allows them to have that entrepreneurial spirit and, rent a studio that's already done for them, no real investment. They could just rent from us. And we're pretty proud that we've been able to deliver a luxury type studio for the price at or lower than some are just renting a chair in the market. And that was intentional. We wanted to give back and have a place where people can rent. We wanted a high occupancy rate. We wanted a waiting list. So that was important to us. And we wanted to make sure that, when we brought this concept to Lafayette, that it was well received. And it has been. And, the other piece was we wanted to make sure that, you wouldn't get scooped up by an Amazon. You can't get a haircut online. They haven't figured that out yet. So that was very important to us when we were looking at other investments.
Awesome. Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a second. I want to let you guys know about our sponsors. First one up, Music Academy of Acadiana. Acadiana's top choice for music lessons. So if you're looking to learn music, it doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter your talent level. They teach students of all ages. They're founded locally by Tim Benson, who is a University of Louisiana at Lafayette Music School graduate. You can learn anything from drums, violin, saxophone, audio production, all of that good stuff. If you want to learn how to be a piano player, they teach that. If you want to learn any stringed instrument like a guitar or even maybe a cello, they'll teach that. They've won multiple national and local awards over their tenure. They have been around for over 10 years. I think it's over 10 years now. I might stand corrected, but I believe it's 10 years or more. And ultimately, their goal is to make music lessons fun, educational, and to help foster the next generation of musicians and creative thinkers, because music fosters creativity. You can find more about them on their website, musicacademyacadiana.com. And you can go on Facebook, Instagram, all those normal social media sites to check them out as well. And then we have The Orchard, who is our tech sponsor. Essentially, we use all Apple products here with the exception of like some Rode mics and some soundboards. But everything else that is essentially feeding you the podcast today is all Apple-based. And what The Orchard does is they work closely with Apple, and essentially they're the only local Apple authorized service provider, which means they have to follow the rules of Apple. And Apple has all the rules. Some we may like, some we don't like. Either way, your product, if it's a broken screen or a sticky keyboard or what have you, if it's a hard drive that's failed, which God forbid, we don't want that, The Orchard can make sure to fix it and repair it the right way so that when you leave there, it's almost like you got a brand new product right out of the box, but it's the one you've been having. So if you want to check them out, they have 2 locations in Lafayette that you can go to physically, one by Buffalo Wild Wings on Ambassador, and then their newest location that opened up within the past year or so next to Super One Foods in Karen Crow. And you can go online and check them out as well at theorchardstores.com. And you can buy a new Apple product there as well. And they also do in-home and in-office networking solutions. So yeah, check them out and show our sponsors some appreciation for allowing us to be able to do this so that you guys don't have to pay for it. All right. So I want to talk a little bit more about Parlor Salon Studios because I am intrigued by the idea. And I mean, like you said, there's franchise opportunities out there for it. It gives, like you said, the power for someone in the salon industry, cosmetology industry, to start their own business without having to start a full-scale salon. Because you and I both know that most salons have more than one chair.
Sure.
And if you want to start a salon that makes money, you usually have to have multiple chairs so that you can rent those chairs out. Absolutely. And the problem, at least from what I understand, is, and I think this is what Parlor Salon Studios helps solve. It's just one of the many things that you guys help solve, is that an individual chair cannot be branded the way that that particular stylist would want. So let's say that particular stylist is let's say they're an emo style hairstylist. They're very dark and black and they have their own aesthetic.
Sure.
And the salon's brand is very bright, more almost like a Hillsong Church vibe, very earth tones. It wouldn't mix.
Right.
So what Parlor Salon Studios allows those people to do, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is have that space and decorate it and design it to fit the brand that they want and aspire to have at that time.
Absolutely. So, a couple of things on that piece, some of the advantages that the stylists have or the cosmetology folks have is that, from a branding perspective, Parlor is just the hub where they able to operate from. But from a branding standpoint, they're able to brand their own, business, decorate their own inside. What they're finding is that the conversations that they have, they're in a room just like this, private. They have a great conversation without others listening.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these salon folks, they almost kind of play therapists to some of their clients.
Dude, they are absolutely therapists.
So, they find that the relationships are deeper. One of the things I like, most about is that we seeing their income go up. I mean, that's the feedback that we're getting. And I'll tell you why. One of the reasons is that they're able to sell their own products and keep all that margin. So when they sell products, they can pick their favorite products that they like, the ones that they're super passionate about, promote those products, and then their clients are buying those products directly from them. The other component is that in the salons, we have individual hand sinks, and from a board of cosmetology standpoint, that allows them to do additional services that they might not otherwise be able to do. So if they're in a salon where it might be a big open environment, and even though they have the skill set to do eyebrows or lips or these other types of makeup, what have you, they just don't have the environment to do it maybe in a traditional salon. They can do those unique services or those private services in their own studio, so expanding their product line, their service offerings, and of course their income. So it's a good fit.
Oh man, that is really neat. Like, it's almost making me wish that I could go into the cosmetology industry and like rent out a chair, man. We have another comment. Let's check that out. So it is by Cindy Richard. So Cindy Richard says, Bradley has always been driven to deliver the best in everything he does. Luckily, I'm blessed to have learned from him for 12 years. Congrats on your success. You earned it.
Yeah. So Cindy worked with us over at the assessment company for years. So that was great spending time and, learning, the assessment industry. And she worked with us. Great. Say hello, Cindy. Thanks.
Yeah. Awesome, man. All right. So for those that are watching that may have questions about Parlor Salon, you obviously have a website. I'll show that in a second. I'll go ahead and put the link up right now. So it's parlorsalonstudios.com if you want to go ahead and check it out while you're watching. So what could a cosmetology professional expect when they want to get a space? So like, do they go to the website? Are they able to rent a space through the website? Or do they have to contact you directly? And importantly, like, how much does it cost versus the alternative of renting a chair in person?
Yeah. So a couple things. The website is designed to just share, locally, what's the business model like, what's the locations, and a directory of each stylist at each location, so that they want to book directly, they can click on that stylist's information, find out that person's social channels, phone numbers, and things like that. So the website is mainly a directory for if, we have customers come across the site looking for a good stylist, they want this experience, or, when COVID hit, people were scrambling, they couldn't see their traditional stylists, where ours were able to operate through the whole pandemic because of the private spaces and the social distancing. But the website, in terms of how to lease, we have an inquiry section where they can go on and inquire about which studio they're interested in. We've been pretty fortunate that since day one at both locations, we've been at 100% occupancy. We've had a couple had to transition out, just, they've starting a family and things like that.
Yeah.
But we slot the next person in. So it's been almost from a waiting list only. We now have a leasing manager that's going to be helping us lease out all of the downtown locations, because we're going to double in size, man. We're currently at 21 studios between the two locations. We're adding 18 more, so we're at 39 units. So I have a leasing manager now. Her name's Sarah, and she is also from the cosmetology space, worked at Aveda, so just a good fit. She's going to help us, but they can go on and sign the inquiry. Usually they want to see the location. So now that we have some actual locations, they can go see what they look like, go walk through the locations, and then we have them complete the application, and then everything is digital. So we have an online lease. They fill that out. And then from a cash flow standpoint, we set it up for weekly rents. So it allows us to help them be good stewards of their monies as well. So every Wednesday, just direct deposit is happening. It accesses and pulls the money from their systems, and they bank authorize that. So, everything's pretty streamlined. I mean, just recently, I ran the first 2 units, first 2 locations for almost 2 years now, just by ourselves, my wife and I. So it really wasn't that much work for us. A lot of work goes on in the beginning is starting it up, building location, planning the layout, being involved with that piece. But once we got it up and running and started to figure out, okay, what are the things that we need to do to really manage this business? Well, we better have a good plumber,
right?
Sinks are,
because all the hair,
maybe something gets stopped up, so we have plumbers that, will go out, and we have some good service providers here in Lafayette that, we call them up if there's something that, get clogged up, but other than that, that's usually it, man. We have, 24/7 access. That's another big key that does
24/7. So like somebody can work at any time,
anytime they want. Anytime they want. So, that allows them to dictate their own hours. If let's say they had something personally going on, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but they need to catch up just on their own income standpoint, or they got a special client that wants to come in out of town. We have some people that travel to Lafayette just to get their hair done with a particular stylist.
Wow.
And maybe they can only come on a Sunday. So, we have a key fob where, the stylist can key fob into the building. We have the buildings program where it automatically opens and locks at a certain time. We had a great provider here in Lafayette help us set up that technology. We can remote access and open up the building, lock the building. So we have it set up to, thinking how we're going to scale multiple locations as we do this. But, it's about anywhere from a pricing standpoint, about $175 to $200 a week.
Okay.
So that puts you around $700 to $800 a month in most cases. And that's about what a chair rents for, I think, in Lafayette. Some might be $500, some might be $1,000. I think we're in that sweet spot of right in the middle of the pricing model. Now, I'll tell you this, that's the Lafayette prices that we brought into this market. Like if you go to other markets that have a similar type of business model,
it's more expensive.
It's almost double the price.
I mean, in Lafayette is we're a small town that wants the big city feel.
Right.
And so I mean, obviously you had the prices have to kind of align. But like if you were to go
being new to the market, we didn't want to come into the market and just be like, oh my God, what are these guys charging? They're crazy. So we wanted to, make the rents make sense. But, occupancy was key for us. Making sure that, that was important.
So you guys, it sounds like if I'm picking it up on the cue here, that eventually you want prices to go up naturally.
No, not really.
No?
So that's one of the key components of our business strategy and our business model is that where we're locating the salons, we actually own the real estate, which is pretty important. So what that does for
the Grant Gordon model, right?
Yeah. So what it does for us is, we're able to, stabilize our loan when we buy a building. We lock in a rate, with 20-year loan, but the other side is that we have a locked in fixed cost that we can, pass that fixed cost down to our stylists. So if you look at what's going on in the industry, across all industries, if there's other business models that come in and, have their salon in a space, those rents are going to have to go up for those particular locations that are not self-owned because the landlords are going to have that pressure of, things going up in price. Well, we feel pretty confident we're about to keep those rents pretty stable at a low price. That's our goal is to keep it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really good news because
so it's kind of like you want to get in a parlor salon. You want to get in.
Yeah, and you said there's a wait list, so like obviously you guys are doing something that seems attractive to that industry. I'm going to pull up the website again. So here's some of the locations, and you can see that there's a Lafayette location right off Ambassador. That's kind of where Bertrand and Ambassador splits. And then you have the most recent location in near downtown Broussard, which has a very similar feel as the original location. I mean, you probably have an architect who, made sure to kind of keep some of the cues, right?
Actually, that's part of my passion. So, one of the things that allows me to, be creative is, that design aspect, so literally I usually use an iPad and lay out the design or the floor plan, start moving boxes around.
Yep.
My wife, and she's listening, probably, how many times are you going to look at that screen and move those boxes around? You're on version number 12 or what?
Look, my wife tells me that I obsess over things all the time. Like, she goes, how many times, like, I'll make a video for a client, and she goes, how many times are you going to watch that video? I'm like, Kelly, I'm watching it.
Yeah.
For one, I'm editing it. I got to watch it over and over and over to make sure it feels right and like it keeps pace. But I'm excited about it. I like looking at what I was able to create.
Yeah.
I don't know.
For me, that creative side and it's almost like problem solving. It's like, okay, I got 2,000 square feet to work in. How can I make this a great location, a good experience? Where do I need the doors, and what makes sense for like the aesthetics and the flow of the business? I like figuring those things out. Down to when I developed my State Farm office, I literally drew it all out and gave the architect, here's how I want my location. And most of what he did was just make sure that from a handicap and the bathrooms were in compliant, but we pretty much got what I laid out. So I just love it. I just like doing those things.
That's awesome. Like I agree, man. I like to be creative, and being creative, a creative person can sometimes be a little anal, a little bit. So yeah, I'm gonna pull up the website again. So. Looking at the two locations, then you have your new downtown location coming up. We'll talk about that in just a second. So I'm going to pull up the original location that started. So I'm going to do an online tour. So it looks like at the top you can see the hairstylists that are renting at the moment. Correct? Is that what I'm looking at? The directory?
Should be, yeah.
Yeah.
So each location, we have the directory of the stylists, with their direct contact information, and down below is the actual location's photos.
Wow.
So if you click on the ambassador location, you kind of get like a little visual tour of that.
All right. So I'm gonna try to briefly here give our viewers some of the photos. So like this is the entrance with the logo wall. Look, the logo is really cool. The logo wall is like really slick and like modern feeling. I love it. And this is like the hallway, and it looks like there's units on each side, and they have each a number on the wall. And it's all glass doors. Like, can you see inside of the unit?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, one of the things that we did in the first location and the second location is the doors are solid glass. Not cheap, very expensive.
Right.
But the first location, they have these sliding barn doors. They look beautiful. We learned in that first one, moving to the second one, let's do the doors a little differently. So in the second location, some of the stylists actually like maybe tint their deal with almost like a fog type tint.
Okay, yeah. And you allow that?
Yeah, we allow that. But in moving into the third location, the doors are going to be a little different, a little bit better, locking mechanisms, things like that. So, again, we're learning as we go. But as far as aesthetically, we want things to look very clean. I just like things that look organized and clean.
Yeah, I think most people appreciate that. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at oh gosh, let me get out of here.
I will say this. So one of my good friends is a stylist, Josh Clark. He owns a great salon in Youngsville, J. Elliott Salon, and he and I would collaborate and just talking about. Actually, when I went over the idea with him, share with him what I was going to be doing, and asked him, we were kind of kicking around names, and he actually said, well, if I was going to open up a different salon in the future or a different salon ever, I was thinking, we would name it Parlor. I was, oh man, that's a great name. And he said, you take it, you use it.
Oh, he allowed you to take it. That's awesome.
I always got to thank Josh for that great name. I think it just fits well for just a place of gathering of where people come together for services. So it just worked out really well.
All right. So I just did a quick tour of both the locations. And you mentioned Jay Elliott. He's actually building his own new place right now.
Yes, he is. It's going to be fabulous.
Yeah. He this has probably been over probably 8 months now since I've known about it. He sent me the renderings and everything because he was sharing it on his personal Facebook page. And I said, look, send me the renderings, send me the information. And I was going to write about it back then, and I didn't because I didn't know when he would start on it. And I didn't want to be too early because I can be too early sometimes, and sometimes things just fall through.
That's right.
But I was flying my drone in Youngsville earlier this week or late last week, and where I was in the tiny little speck of the image, of the video, I could see what looked like some sticks going up. And I'm like, okay, so I flew my drone, and it was a little distance, but I'm like, I can still see it. So I flew my drone to this area, and I saw that it looked like the place near the Van Allen area.
It is.
I said, I wonder if that's Jay Elliott. So I flew my drone back, landed it, took off, and then drove to that location. And sure enough, it's the Jay Elliott building. And then I went to his Facebook page, and I saw he had wrote about it and posted it. So I got that to write about. So it's cool that you mentioned Jay Elliott, because he was an inspiration to help get us started.
Absolutely,
Yeah, awesome. All right, so downtown location. That downtown location is interesting because it had a lot of people talking about salons in downtown, and it was the former handy stop market that you guys are going into through a collaboration of ownership of the building. And so one of the things that I saw a lot of people talking about is like essentially just straight up bluntly, why another salon in downtown? Yeah. And I was being naturally myself in the comment section. I'm like, look, it's not just a salon. It's not just another salon with, 100 different chairs in the same spot. Like, there's a lot of salons in downtown Lafayette. We know this. And they all do great, which is amazing, because people think, oh, why do we need another salon? But they all do good. I've never seen a salon in downtown fail, at least not to my knowledge over the past 5-10 years. So what do you say to those people that are saying, why another salon? Obviously, we kind of touched on why it's not just a salon, but like, what would you tell those people?
Yeah, well, a couple things. One, I was a little nervous about going downtown myself. Like,
why?
It's just like when you think of like parking, do you want to go downtown to get a haircut and park and all that good stuff? But until you go down there and start seeing, okay, wow, this is pretty vibrant, what's happening downtown and all the development that's taking place. I got approached to bring that salon downtown. So a developer actually bought the building, and he contacted me and said, hey, I just bought this building. I think you should consider putting a parlor in downstairs. And first question I had was, hey, isn't it occupied? And he said, well, they're not going to be in it, and they're out. And however that worked out is how it worked out. So I was invited after to look at the space. It made sense to us. One of the things that I think when you ask about other locations and other salons downtown is that rents over time are going to continue to get squeezed. So if you think about the downtown being developed, the value of that real estate is going to go up. What do you think is going to happen to those rents to those little local salons now? They could potentially go up pretty skyrocketed.
They might go up pretty high.
Might go up pretty high. And, without, disclosing, who's looking at what space is, we've been, both with the Broussard Salon and our downtown Lafayette Salon, we actually, in our Broussard Salon, had a stylist and an entire salon location transition to our space. So they were operating in a traditional salon. Both the owner and her ladies that were salon working for her all transitioned into parlor. When we're moving now into downtown, we may have similar circumstances where they're just tired of all of the responsibility. The rents are going up. They have a vision for what they want. The landlords aren't doing it. So it allows them to almost escape that, handcuffs that they're in and have a breath of fresh air in their own space without all the overhead and risk in a beautifully designed place. So we think it's going to be a home run. The other thing that we think about is, when you think about the impact that we're going to have, 18 more businesses is what we're about to put in there. 18 more businesses, 18 more entrepreneurs, 18 more people bringing in hundreds of clients on a weekly basis.
Coming downtown.
So, the nice thing about stylists or people in that industry is, their customers follow where they are. They wherever that person locates, they're going to go. And I think that's just going to be a tremendous impact to downtown, going and visit other businesses and be a feed to other businesses in the community.
Let me tell you, you are on the money with salon professionals being followed hard like that. It's almost like once you find someone who cuts your hair, you don't want to lose them.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you a quick story that happened to me recently. And I don't know if the lady who cuts my hair, used to cut my hair, is listening. So she went through a transition stage of her business where she needed to allocate more personal time to personal life. And I totally get that. She made a post on Facebook saying, you know, she's been thinking about this for a while. She's cried multiple times. And ultimately what happened was that she had to make the difficult decision to cut certain clients. And those certain clients were mostly guys. And in lieu of keeping her, well, not in lieu, but yeah, keeping her main clients, which mostly women who are high dollar tickets. Like, you know, my wife just got her hair colored by her, actually, and because we've been going to her for over 12 years. And it was over $100.
Oh yeah,
that's
cheap, man. $100,
yeah, right? But she's an individual person, and she does her own pricing. Kind of like just an individual chair might have different pricing. So yeah, so $100, $110 more or less. And my haircut and my little boy's haircut total was like, God, $32, $35 tops. That's with a tip.
Yeah.
Like, that's nothing.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, most men can't go to downtown and get a haircut for less than $30-$40.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know the going rate of a haircut in downtown for a guy.
That's for sure. But, you know, one of the nice things about it is that, you know, we got great salons in Lafayette, you know, even to the traditional ones. And, you know, they have, you know, great teams and great camaraderie, great collaboration. You know, I think with Parlor, it just offers just a different alternative for that stylist that just wants to be a little bit independent. You know, we have that space for them. So it caters to a different, maybe someone that's at a different stage in their career, you know, so they can call, you know, and make their own salon. So.
Awesome. All right. So we're getting close to the 45-minute mark, and we still have several people watching, and I want to make sure we get to the last thing. And I think this is the most interesting thing that I've seen so far from any local person getting into is the NFT / Metaverse space. Now, those listening, you may not know what an NFT is or what the Metaverse is. I've mentioned the Metaverse here on a podcast several weeks ago with the Festival International crew. And so essentially, NFTs are, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, non-fungible tokens, right?
That's right.
Okay. We'll elaborate on what that means in a second. And then the Metaverse, it's essentially the product of what Facebook turned into. So Facebook changed their main corporate name from Facebook to Meta, and they have essentially got into the virtual reality space so deep that they've created another universe in the online internet area called the Metaverse. You know, this so happens to be called their thing. Okay, I want you, Bradley, to elaborate on what an NFT is, how it relates to business and being a product, and then also why would you even try to get into the Metaverse space? Like, what does that look like as far as a business owner, and for those listening that may want to even remotely think about getting into that? Like, go ahead.
Well, a couple things there. I think when you look at the evolution of the internet, and that's really what everyone is looking at, you know, going back to, we talked about my early years in 1995, you know, tinkering around with the first web page, and the web page was just a place to display content. You know, it was just an online brochure, and then it changed into where people can log in and start having interactions with the internet. And then version 2, they call it Web 2.0, where it's user-generated content. That user-generated content, you're thinking like social media, you know, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of these different places where the users can put out the content. You know, so each evolution, there's been opportunities, and, you know, Web 3 is what they're calling it with NFTs and Metaverse. It's another version of the internet that's coming. And for me, just looking at just from a hobby standpoint, you know, just having like a natural interest in being a part of it, I just recognize that something's going to be happening in this space. I need to learn it. to what extent I can be involved. I know that I'm at a point in my life where I want to collaborate again with others that may be smarter than me, might have ideas, how I could bring people together and bring talents together and maybe put a project together. So, that's where, my interest lied. So the last several months, it's been a lot of studying of what it was, what the opportunities are, what can be built. And we start seeing some of the sales that are happening in NFTs, and I'm like, what are people buying this for? What is this?
And they're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on NFTs.
Yeah, so that intrigued me. I was like, what are they buying, and what is it for? And really, you asked me to kind of touch on they're buying access to something that lives on a new technology called the blockchain.
Okay,
and so over time, you'll see there's going to be a transformation of the way we use digital things is going to operate, or it is operating on the blockchain. And that's just a technology that, I'm not a tech savvy person on that aspect. It's pretty deep and over my head. But, when way to think about it, NFT is, and I think the easiest way to kind of describe it is something simple as, let's say you got your diploma, you graduated, right? And I, as the employer, want to validate that, you got that diploma. Well, what if that diploma, from the digital creation of it, was created by the university on a certain technology that was authenticated, that when you presented it, and only you could be the owner of it, can show me that, yes, this is a real diploma or a real authentication of that digital art, okay? Then I know is when I'm looking at it, I know, okay, this is where it originated, this is where it's at, and this is the person who owns it. So the NFT is just technology of the ownership and where is it transferring from. If you think about it from an art standpoint, when someone created the Mona Lisa or whatever, I mean, how many times has sold, and how many times has that artist gotten paid? Well, with NFTs, that particular artist and his foundation or her foundation could get paid for infinity with blockchain and NFTs, because every time the NFT changes ownership, royalties can be placed back to the original creator. So it allows digital creators to have an ongoing royalty standpoint based on content. Even if you don't own it, you want to give up the rights to it and let someone else own it, it allows you to have contracts in place, which is all controlled digitally, of that original developer to get paid. And that's pretty intriguing to me. And it's all tracked very transparent in the technology of the blockchain through a ledger. And you can see exactly who bought it, when, what time, who owns it now. And then every time it's transferring ownership, the original creator is getting some type of royalty for their ideas.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I knew a little bit, like you went into some detail that I didn't even know. So have you had experience in buying an NFT or anything like that, or have you sold one yet? Like, what does that look like for you?
So, when I looked into the NFT space, it's kind of like one of those things. Am I going to go in and buy it, or I'm going to go in and be a developer? And just my natural, how I like to create things said, you know what, if I'm going to get into that side of things, and whether I want to own some or have a portfolio of it, I'd rather sit on the development side of it from a creativity standpoint, but also maybe any type of upside opportunity. So I instantly got into, how do we create a collection? What do we need to do to create it? I need to get with graphic designers. We need to start doing, certain aspects of projects and, pulling that together. And really, I'm in the planning to create NFTs versus buy them.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the creation of NFTs is, if you can do it, if you can pull it off correctly, it's lucrative.
Yeah.
And I'm still trying to understand, like, why? Like, is it just the newness, or is it the exclusivity of it? It could be both. Yeah. Like,
so what's happening now, and it's changed since I first wanted to get into this space. In the beginning, I think it was the newness. If you look at last year in 2021, most people were just buying it to almost like FOMO, like the fear of missing out. I need to buy one, and I need to buy this one, and they keep buying. But now look at 12 months later, the buyers are getting a little bit more savvy. So they're looking at a couple of things. They're looking at who's the team behind it, who's creating this, what is their intent of it, and that's where they're looking at as to why and how once I buy this, what can I do with this particular NFT? What is the utility of it? Why is this going to be valuable? How can I use it in the future? So, as project developers, we're doing that same analysis. So we looking at, okay, if we create a project, if we put it out there, what will the end user be able to do with it? So we now have a project that we're pretty excited about, that we're going to be moving forward with. That's going to have a lot of utility, a great opportunity, and we have a business model all around it. So pretty pumped about that.
So I'm gonna pull up the your website here, and let's see if we get that up. All right, so I got your website pulled up for what this is called, the Metavisory.
Yeah,
I love the name. Obviously, advisory is a part of that word. Metavisory, It makes sense. So, just literally looking at the logo only, it appears as though you guys are advising people about the metaverse and NFT space. How are you guys generating revenue? Obviously, you said you were going to get into the development space of the NFTs, but like from the Metavisory, I guess, advisory point of view, what does the revenue model look like there?
Yeah. So, the Metavisory company was created as really my think tank for me to get into the NFT space.
Got it.
So, with State Farm, I have to disclose to State Farm, anytime I'm doing outside business activity. So creating a LLC so that we can have, just enter into this space. But in particular, our goal is to create projects. So part of it, what we're doing in the beginning here is we're working on our own ideas and our own projects to bring them into the space. So what that looks like is that, we had an idea for a project, and we have put out feelers and working on contracting with a graphic designer. And we wanted to take it a step further. So we're actually in negotiations right now to bring in one of the top artists in the world in a particular genre. And, when you think about my whole idea of collaboration, so we have an artist located in another part of the world who wants to get into NFTs. They're just scared and not sure how to get into it. And here we are wanting to get into it and bringing those parties together to complement each other's services. So I'm not, this great graphic designer, but I do know how to bring people in and collaborate. So, bring that piece in. But, one of the things that I did, I'll go back to my roots of creating software and pitching it out there. I'm not just going into this blindly. I created an entire business model around this particular project, what it would look like, how we're going to monetize it year after year. And what I did, in addition, was I showed and reached out to some of the top people in NFT out there, and set up meetings to show them what I was going to do, and got extremely positive feedback. And, that's when I knew I might be on to something, that if we have top people in NFT space saying, this is good, this could be something, I was like, okay, this might be kind of interesting if we pull this together. So, to me, I'm just kind of like the guy pulling the pieces together, and just, trust is a big thing in this industry. Who you're going to trust with an idea? Are they going to take it and run with it? So having, non-disclosure agreements was important. So I have all those in place when I'm talking to someone about an idea, because, that's the whole trouble about collaboration, is that people are scared to share an idea, or, this person's going to rip me off or steal, so I think the Metavisory was just set up to say, hey, listen, this is a safe place. I have a track record of success in projects. I'm highly ethical, integrity. If we put together an agreement, I'm going to fulfill my side. I'm trusting that you're going to fill your side, and let's see if we can make this happen.
Man, this is really cool. You mentioned graphic designers, and that seems like the obvious direction because it's digital format. What about a local artist in Lafayette that they may not be savvy in the tech space? They don't know how to get an NFT started, because I think with an NFT you have to have a crypto account, right?
Yes.
Because I did get a crypto account, and I was about to try to start selling an NFT, but then I researched that what I was doing with this particular artwork that I was creating, because it was in collaboration with another company's software, that I would probably not be able to sell that generated artwork that, even though I inspired to create it,
Right.
it was generated through an AI.
Okay.
So I could not make an NFT with it, but it's so unique. And I'm like, it could fly, but I don't think you can. So going to a local artist that creates things and they're, like I said, not technically savvy. For example, I don't know how technically savvy he is, but he's a great artist, Dirk Gidry,
Yeah.
who created this year's Festival International artwork.
Yes.
It's beautiful. Would he be able to, either by himself or through the advisory, the Metavisory company, to create an NFT of that artwork and sell it? And the other part of that question is, so that's the first one, would he be able to do that with physical artwork? And then second, if the physical artwork was created to be sold as an NFT, who technically owns that artwork, even though there's a physical representation of that artwork?
Yeah. So a couple of points. If one of the things about Dirk Gidry in particular, we were at a local art show years ago, and my wife came across his art, and she just loved it. She's like, "Oh my God, look how nice!" And I was like, "Oh yeah, Dirk, you know, it seems." I don't know if I can afford that at the time. I was like, that's kind of expensive, you know? So fast forward a few years later, in 2020, I'm building my office, and I wanted like very beautiful art. I wanted like a, you know, kind of like custom art in each office. And I contacted Dirk, and I said, Dirk, I want to do some art. And he came to my office. We came up with some concepts that I wanted to have in each office. And I got home, told my wife, she's like, I can't believe you got Dirk. I was like, yeah. She said, well, I wanted a Dirk Gidry graphic, you know, a while ago. You told me no. I said,
That's funny.
Dirk's doing it. But yeah, so Dirk is a great artist. In particular, he's actually someone I reached out to when I got into this space, because I thought like, hey, he's got some really interesting stuff, and, you know, reached out to him. You know, one of the things that, you know, when it comes to getting NFTs on, you know, taking art and putting it as NFTs. Right now, an artist could do that on their own, meaning that they can create an account. You know, maybe they use something like OpenSea, but they can create an account, upload their particular image, and then put it for sale. They could set, you know, their sale price, and they can even set the number of them. So, for example, let's say Dirk or some other artist created, you know, some graphic that they want to sell. They can choose if they want to have this be a one-off, like a one-time, this can never be purchased, or multiple versions of it. Now, if you allow multiple versions, maybe the price of that art is not as, you know, unique. However, each time that art is sold, that artist is getting an ongoing royalty. So every time it transfers hands, whatever price it sells for, a percentage can go back to the original creator, which would be the artist.
Yeah, that
so
would
from
be cool.
you know, from a protection standpoint, they're more, I think, more protected than ever, in that their actual art, if it's sold and changes hands, they getting, you know, some type of compensation on the backside, which I think is pretty unique.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I get that part. I guess I'm just curious on like converting physical art into digital art, selling it on a digital format, but the physical art still being physical.
Yeah.
Because even though the metaverse is a thing, the physical universe is still a thing.
Yeah.
And for example, like if I buy his original painting of the Festival International artwork and I have it hanging in my living room, I own that physical art, like that canvas.
I think, you know, I think to answer your question, you know, I think that's going to become a personal decision that each artist is going to have to make. Do they want to allow that, you know, unique physical art to transition into the digital space? They need to think of couple things. One is, you know, what they promised when they built that first one, you know, that unique ownership, and then how that might impact them in the digital space. I think that artists, you know, are going to probably have to put a lot of thought into that. My thought is probably trying to maybe keep the two somewhat a little separate, potentially, or that if the physical was able to, have a digital version, and it kind of went as a collaboration piece, that it follows that digital ownership. But I think creating unique items just for the digital space. So, for example, we're working potentially to get a famous artist on one of our projects, and that's one of the concerns that I brought up to them on the front side, is that, hey, one of the things that I would advise to keep the value of your art in the physical is that we would never bring that art into the digital space, so that keeps it very rare and unique to the people that purchase it or what have you. But if we go into the digital, it may be inspired art or renditions of it that maybe we've changed some elements, some color schemes, things like that, to know that, hey, this is a metaverse version of that particular collection.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
man, it's just an interesting thing. And like every phase of the internet, you always have your early adopters. With anything in life, you have your early adopters. You have the people that are not quite the early adopters, but like they get in kind of in the mid, like before the midway, and then you have your people who are at the very tail end. They're like, hey, this seems cool, and I'm starting to understand it, and then they're almost late, and then the trend's fading out. But
I'll connect you on this last thing to maybe communicate to the audience a little bit more specifically about what we're doing, and maybe connect the dots. So, when you think about metaverse, okay, you may see commercials or see activities where people putting on those Oculus type glasses, the VR type equipment.
Yep.
Okay. When you think about that, that is a metaverse that's occurring. The metaverse just can allow users from all over the world to be in this system simultaneously or separate. So one of the things that we're doing is, and I'll tell you the first project that we're working on, the NFT project is called the Haunted Metaverse.
Okay.
So the Haunted Metaverse is going to feature 10,000 unique graphics, inspired graphics with witches and skeletons and vampires and things like that. That's going to be the NFT that's purchased. Okay.
Okay.
But the metaverse, well, our goal is to monetize this, is that rather than maybe going to a haunted house that you have to get in your car, drive to, imagine if you were able to buy an NFT ticket. Okay. You just go online, click and buy one. And maybe it's $20, maybe it's $50, but you click and buy an NFT ticket that allows you to get into the metaverse of the haunted metaverse, where you can click and say, hey, I want to go to this virtual haunted house, and have the real experience of like, oh my God, I'm getting scared. And they actually pick levels of horror. So maybe I'm a level 1 because I get scared easily. And then there's some people that, they want a level 3 and they can really experience that piece. But, having those types of experiences. Another piece that we're looking at is, let's say a family wants to get together and do an escape room. So imagine being in your own home, you're all putting on the goggles and y'all trying to figure out together as a family. But what if you don't have a family? What if you're just one person?
Yeah.
And you want to go to an escape room, and maybe you can bring in other people that have similar interests, and y'all enter into the space together as a team from other parts of the world, and try to do an escape room together in the virtual space.
Man, the metaverse is so interesting. I first got introduced to it because I was learning via TikTok that people were buying digital real estate in the metaverse. I'm like, digital real estate? Like, God, dog, like we get rid of all the real estate on earth. Like now we're selling it in its digital format. It's just so wild.
The Bored Ape just did a real estate sale for their metaverse, and I think they did like $600 million in 3 days. God. And that's just the round 1 of sales. That's not even counting all where it's at today in the a couple of weeks later.
That's so wild.
It's crazy.
And then I think the real estate company EXP, I think they have their own metaverse
that's a good
office.
point. So when you think about real estate and doing virtual tours, like maybe you're looking at a lot of engineer and architect firms are doing metaverse type. It really just comes down to the graphics and the visual display, but they can now create an entire building to where before it's built, like the owners or the developers can, let's see from the time you walk in through that building, what it's going to feel like, what it's going to look like, what are the surroundings, and really almost feel like they're inside of the building that they might be able to create. But with full disclosure, man, I'm an amateur at this. We're just kind of looking at opportunities. I'm learning as we go with that, and it's just more hobbyish type things for me. So when you can do something that's kind of your hobby, but also maybe have it as an entrepreneurial opportunity, that's kind of fun too.
Yeah, man, it's amazing. We could probably talk bits and pieces about it all day and ultimately not have any clue what we're talking about. But for sake of time and to respect your time, I want to go ahead and wrap it up. But I do appreciate you coming on. We touched on State Farm. We touched on Parlor Salon Studios, which was a good chunk of what we talked about. And then, of course, the Metavisory company that you created to talk about the NFT space and the Metaverse and all that stuff, because that's probably over a lot of people's heads, and it's almost still above our head. But yeah, no, I really appreciate you coming on, Bradley, and I really look forward to the downtown location for Parlor Salon Studios and kind of seeing how that goes. And I want to see what if people's thoughts, the overall public thought of the Parlor Salon Studios being in downtown changes, because I think that they are thinking of it in a different way, in a more narrow way. Even though many people think that they're open-minded, I think open-minded is just a shroud for somebody who's really just narrow-minded because they just want to perceive them. Anyway, I'm getting too deep. But anyway, again, I appreciate you coming on. Is there anything that you want to leave off with before we head out?
No, I just want to thank you for having us. We're big supporters of Developing Lafayette. We follow it. But, I'm just really grateful for this community. I mean, the culture here. My wife and I moved from another city to come here, and it's scary. You move to a new city, you know what you expect. You're starting a business. You feel like you're risking everything that you have, personally, professionally, and we've just been well received and just a great community to live and do business in. And we love it here. So thank you, Lafayette and Acadiana.
Awesome, man. Look, we're glad to have you guys, and I moved here in 2010 too, so it's a little interesting, but only an hour north. Yeah. But yeah, it's a great community. Before we leave, I'm gonna show you the websites again. So if you want to learn more about Bradley Beck's State Farm, if you want to contact Bradley about your State Farm or your car insurance or health insurance or life insurance. God, every insurance. His website is bradleybeck.com, and then we also have the Parlor Salon Studios.com, which we've talked about as well. If you're a salon studio, if you're a salon professional or cosmetology professional, go to their website, check them out, get on the wait list, or do whatever you got to do to try to get a space there if you're interested. And then if you're trying to figure out what's happening with NFTs and the Metaverse, he has a company called Metavisorycompany.com. And so check that out. It's a company that is, like you said, hobbyish, but still on the cusp of trying to figure out the latest technology.
Yeah.
And were you going to say something?
No, I would say, with NFTs and things like that, there's a lot of stuff you can just learn online. I mean, that's how I self-taught. I mean, I've learned a lot from just watching YouTube, Twitter. I recently got on Twitter just to learn more about the NFT. That seems to be a place, a community where a lot of that's being taught. And then they have a lot of with like these Twitter spaces where you can log in and listen, and just listening to what others are doing and how they're doing or what's important. You learn a lot.
Oh yeah. There's a lot to be learned here, no doubt. Anyway, that is it. Bradley, again, thank you for coming on to talk about all your different entrepreneurial journeys, and I look forward to seeing your continued success.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, guys, and that is it. That is the tea. We hope you have a great Friday, and we will see you on the next.